Hi, welcome to Lies and Secrets channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. My name is Emily. I'm 22, medium height with long brown hair that never quite does what I want. My body isn't perfect average. I guess curves in some places, softer in others. It's not like I think about it much until someone points it out. I don't wear flashy clothes or anything tight because honestly I don't want the attention today, though none of that mattered. It wasn't about how I looked or what anyone thought of me. It was about what I was standing here trying to convince myself to do. The barn smelled like old hay and dirt mixed with that warm, earthy scent beautiful horses carry with them. The air was damp and the soft sound of hooves shifting on the wooden floor echoed faintly. I could feel my heart pounding, thudding like a drum in my C********T. I wasn't even sure if it was fear or excitement, maybe both. Jacob, our big bay gelding, stood in the center of the barn aisle, his ears flicking back toward me as if he could hear the chaos in my head. He was calm, steady, always had been. He was the kind of beautiful horse people dream about, patient, forgiving, and unshakable. I wasn't like Jacob, not even close. My fingers tightened around the reins. I was holding my palms already. Cammy, the thought crossed my mind again. What if I messed this up? That single sentence had been living in my head rent-free for days. Now it was like a broken record, looping endlessly. I'd been riding beautiful horses since I was a kid, but this was different. This wasn't about skill or technique. It was about something I'd never admitted out loud. Fear. Not fear of falling or getting hurt. No, this was deeper, darker, harder to name. It was fear of failing, of not being good enough, of proving to myself that maybe I wasn't cut out for this after all. Jacob nudged my shoulder with his nose, breaking my spiral of thoughts. I looked at him and laughed softly, though it sounded shaky even to me. You don't get it. Do you, big guy? I muttered, rubbing his forehead. His dark eyes blinked at me, calm and unbothered. The arena was only a few steps away, but it might as well have been miles. I'd set up the jump earlier. Nothing huge, nothing fancy, just a small over low enough that any decent rider would laugh at the sight of it. But to me it looked enormous. I could feel the weight of my own expectations pressing down on me. You have to do this. I thought, no one's making you, but you have to. I stepped into the stirrup and swung my leg over Jacob's back. My body felt heavy and awkward, like I was made of stone. I adjusted the reins in my hands, my fingers trembling just enough that I noticed it walking into the arena. Every sound seemed louder, the creak of the saddle, the rhythmic crop of Jacob hooks, the faint whistle of the wind through the open doors. I swallowed hard, trying to push down the lump rising in my throat. Okay. I whispered, more to myself than to him. Just one jump. Just one. We circled the arena a few times. Jacob Gatight smooth and steady. Beneath me, my mind was anything but steady. The jump loomed ahead and every pass made it harder to ignore. My C*******T felt tight, like I couldn't take a full breath. What if you stop halfway? What if you lose your balance? Wait. Stop it. I said out loud, cutting off my own thoughts. The sound of my voice startled me, felt too loud, too real, but it worked. My brain quieted just for a second. I turned Jacob toward the jump, my heart racing faster with each stride. My fingers tightened on the reins and I could feel my WH*****S body teasing up. Jacob, ever the saint, kept moving forward. His ears pricked toward the obstacle like it was the easiest thing in the world. 3 strides out. I almost pulled him up. My brain screamed at me to stop, to turn, to bail out. But something deeper, something buried under all. The fear and doubt kept me going. 2 strides, my breath caught in my throat. 1 stride, and then we were in the air for a brief, weightless moment. Everything stopped. The fear, the doubt, the noise. It all disappeared. It was just me and Jacob floating over that tiny jump like it was nothing. We landed smoothly, his hooks thudding softly against the dirt. I let out a shaky breath, realizing I'd been holding it the WH*****S time. My hands were still trembling, but now it wasn't from fear. It was something else. relief, pride. I pulled Jacob to a stop and leaned forward, wrapping my arms around his neck. My eyes burned, and before I knew it, tears were streaming down my face. It wasn't about the jump, it never had been. It was about proving to myself that I could do it, that I could face the thing that scared me most, even if it was just one tiny step forward, and I had. The wind had picked up again, sharp and biting against my skin. I stood there frozen, my breath visible in the cold air. My boots were buried in the soft dirt of the trail, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking, though I wasn't sure if it was from the cold or the nerves, maybe both. I couldn't tell anymore. The trees around me swayed gently, their bare branches reaching up to a gray sky. Should have been quiet out here, peaceful even. But the noise inside my head drowned everything else out. My thoughts kept circling back over and over like a wheel stuck in the mud. I looked down at the steep hill in front of me. The incline seemed so much bigger now that I was standing here. It wasn't just a hill. It was a test, a line. I wasn't sure. I had the guts to cross, my breath hitched, and I clenched my fists. Why was this so hard? The trail stretched out below, winding its way through the trees. It was uneven, rocky in parts, but nothing I hadn't seen before. It wasn't the trail itself that scared me. It was what it represented. For years, I'd avoided anything that felt like a risk. I stayed in my comfort zone, never pushing too hard, never stepping too far outside the lines. It was safe there, predictable, but it was also empty. No. Now I was here, standing on the edge of something I couldn't avoid anymore. It was just me, this trail, and the voice in my head. That voice wasn't kind. It told me I wasn't ready, that I wasn't good enough, that I'd fall, fail, or worse. I bit my lip hard, tasting the faint metallic tang of blood. My C***** tea felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air, and my stomach churned. Everything inside me screamed to turn around, to walk back to the safety of flat ground, of what I knew. But deep down I knew why I couldn't. This wasn't about the hill, it wasn't about the trail. It was about proving to myself that I could do it, that I was more than my fear. I took a step forward, my boots crunching against the gravel. My L***s felt like they were moving on their own, like they didn't belong to me. The edge of the hill was only a few feet away now, and my heart pounded harder with every step. When I reached the top, I stopped, my knees were weak, my breathing uneven. I glanced down again, the sharp drop making my head spin. This was it. There was no one here to tell me what to do. No one to push me. It was all on me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, filling my lungs until they ached. The wind rushed past, tugging at my hair as if daring me to step forward. My hands trembled at my sides and my pulse thundered in my ears. First step was the hardest. My foot moved forward, hesitating for the briefest moment before landing on the uneven ground. I felt the trail shift slightly beneath me, and my heart leapt into my throat. Then the second step and the third. Each step felt heavier than the last, but I kept going. My body was tense. Every muscle coiled like a spring, ready to catch me if I slipped. The air was colder here, sharper, and every breath felt like fire in my C***** tea. Halfway down, I stopped. I looked back up at the hill, at the place I'd been standing just moments ago. Felt miles away. Now, though I knew it wasn't. My L***s were trembling. My hands clenched tightly into fists, but I was still here, still standing. A shaky laugh escaped my lips, surprising even me. It wasn't over yet, but for the first time I felt like I could do this. My fear was still there, a dull roar in the back of my mind, but it wasn't controlling me anymore. I turned back to the trail and took another step, then another and another. When I reached the bottom, the air felt different, lighter, cleaner. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and looked back up the hill. It was just a hill now, nothing more. I wasn't sure what came next. Maybe there would be another hill, another challenge, another moment like this. But for now I was here standing at the bottom, knowing I'd face something I never thought I could. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The sun was setting behind me, casting long shadows across the field. My hands felt raw, the rough leather reins digging into my palms as I gripped them tightly. The warmth of the day had given way to a cool breeze, but I barely noticed my heart was racing, my thoughts spiraling louder and faster with every passing second. Jacob stood quietly a few feet away, his dark coat glowing softly in the golden light. He looked calm, almost bored, as if the weight of this moment didn't matter to him at all. But to me felt like everything. I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, my boots sinking slightly into the soft dirt. My stomach churned a knot twisting tighter with every breath I took. I wanted to move, to do something, anything, but my body wouldn't cooperate. It was like I was stuck in place, paralyzed by a fear I didn't fully understand. The jump was small, insignificant, really. Just 2 poles balanced on standards barely high enough to make Jacob blink. But to me it looked massive, impossible. I stared at it, my C****** T tightening my mind, racing with every worst-case scenario. What are you so scared of? I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible over the wind. I knew the answer. It wasn't about falling or getting hurt. It wasn't even about the jump itself. It was about failing, about proving that deep down. I wasn't as brave or capable as I wanted to believe. My fingers trembled as I reached for Jacob reins, the cool leather slipping slightly through my hands. He turned his head to look at me, his ears flicking forward. I could feel his steady energy, calm and patient, like he was waiting for me to figure it out. I climbed into the saddle, my movements slow and deliberate, like I was trying to stall for time. My L**** felt shaky, my WH** body tense as I adjusted the reins and settled into position, the weight of what I was about to do pressed down on me heavy and unrelenting. We walked forward, the rhythm of Jacob Hook's steady, and even I tried to match my breathing to his steps, but it didn't help. My C***** T still felt tight, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. As we approached the jump, the knot in my stomach twisted tighter. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, to turn away, to back out before it was too late. But another part of me, smaller, quieter, urged me to keep going. 3 strides out, I almost pulled him up, my hands twitch on the reins, hesitation clawing at me. But Jacob kept moving, his confidence unwavering. It was like he knew what I needed before I did 2 strides. My breath caught, my vision narrowing until all I could see was the jump in front of us, 1 stride. And then we were in the air. The world seemed to pause, everything slowing down to a single weightless moment. The fear, the doubt, the noise in my head, it all disappeared. It was just me and Jacob, soaring together, connected in a way I couldn't explain. We landed smoothly, his hooks touching down with a soft thud. I let out a shaky breath, my hands trembling as I loosened the reins, the knot in my stomach unraveled, replaced by a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. I leaned forward, wrapping my arms around Jacob's neck, tears streaming down my face before I could stop them. He stood still, his ears flicking back toward me as if to say, Atreus, see, you could do it all along. Trask. It wasn't about the jump, it never had been. It was about the fear, the doubt, the stories I'd been telling myself for years. And in that moment I realized they didn't have to control me anymore. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt free, and that was everything. The ear felt heavy, almost suffocating. As I stood in the doorway, my hands hovered over the handle fingers, brushing the cool metal. But I couldn't bring myself to push it open. Inside I knew was everything I'd been running from, everything I couldn't avoid anymore. My heart was racing, each beat echoing in my ears. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was something deeper, something harder to pin down, a mixture of dread and anticipation, pulling me in 2 different directions at once. My breath caught in my throat, shallow and uneven, as if my body was fighting me. Every step of the way I stared at the door, its wormwood smooth under my fingertips. There were scratches near the bottom, marks left from years of being kicked open or slammed shut. Felt like those scratches were mocking me now, a reminder of all the times I'd walked away instead of facing what was inside the room beyond the door. Wasn't just a place. It was a memory, a moment frozen in time that I hadn't been able to let go of. I knew that once I stepped inside, there would be no going back. My fingers curled into a fist and I took a shaky step back, my heels scraping against the floor. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me, the same familiar pull to retreat, to leave it for another day, another time. But how many times had I done that? How many days had I let slip by telling myself I wasn't ready, that it wasn't the right moment? I pressed my forehead against the door, the cool surface grounding me for just a second. My pulse was still racing, but I forced myself to take a deep breath. Then another, trying to steady the storm inside me. It wasn't about the room. It was about what the room represented. Everything I'd been avoiding, everything I'd tried to bury was waiting for me. On the other side, the thought made my C*******T tighten again, a sharp ache that felt like it might crush me. My L*****S wobbled, the strength draining from them, as if my body wanted to collapse under the weight of it all. But I couldn't walk away. This time I gripped the handle tightly, my knuckles turning white. My hand shook as I pushed down the latch, clicking softly. It sounded so loud in the silence, like a signal I couldn't ignore. The door creaked open and the air inside rushed out to meet me. It was stale, heavy with the scent of dust and thyme, but there was something else beneath it. Something familiar. I stepped inside my boots, crunching softly on the floor. The room was smaller than I remembered, the walls, seeming to close in around me. The furniture was covered in white sheets, like ghosts frozen in place. My gaze landed on the desk in the corner, its surface cluttered with papers, books, and old photographs. I took a hesitant step forward, then another, my hands brushing against the edge of the desk. The memories came flooding back, sharp and vivid, like a wave crashing over me. I could see myself sitting here, laughing, working, dreaming of a future that felt so close but had slipped away. I could hear the voices, faint echoes that felt like they belonged to someone else now. Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring my vision. I didn't wipe them away. They felt like they belonged here, like they were part of the process. I reached out, my fingers trembling as they traced the edges of a photograph. It was old and faded, the colors muted, but the faces were still clear. My throat tightened and a sob escaped before I could stop it. Pain was still there, raw and aching, but for the first time it didn't feel overwhelming. It didn't feel like it would consume me. It was just there. A part of me, but not all of me. I sank to the floor, my back against the desk, and let the memories wash over me. The good, the bad, the moments I tried so hard to forget. They were all here, and for the first time I let them stay. The room wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. It wasn't the monster I'd built it up to be in my head. It was just a room full of pieces of a life I'd been too afraid to confront. I stayed there for what felt like hours, the weight in my C******T slowly lifting. By the time I stood up, the air didn't feel so heavy anymore. As I turned to leave, I glanced back at the desk, at the photograph still resting on its surface. A small smile tugged at the corners of my lips. I wasn't fixed, I wasn't healed, but I'd taken the first step, and for now that was enough. The first thing I noticed was the silence, not the kind of quiet that feels peaceful, but the kind that presses against you, heavy and endless. I was standing in the middle of the empty trail, the trees stretching high above me, their shadows tangled on the ground. The air felt colder here, sharper, biting at my skin despite the layers I had on. I shifted uneasily, my boots crunching softly against the gravel, but the sound didn't comfort me. It only made me feel more alone. I didn't have to be here. Nobody had told me to come, and no one would know if I turned around and walked back the way I came, but something inside me wouldn't let me leave. I didn't even know why I'd stopped on this path. Why this moment felt different from all the others, but it did. My C******T tightened as I stared at the trail ahead. It wasn't steep or dangerous. It looked like any other stretch of forest I'd seen 100 times before. But there was something about the way it disappeared into the trees, how it seemed to twist and wind into the unknown, that made me feel like I was standing on the edge of something bigger. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that it was just a trail, just another walk I could take or leave. But my body didn't believe me.
My L*****s felt heavy like they were anchored to the ground, and my hands were clenched into fists at my sides. I let out a shaky breath, watching it cloud in the cool air before it disappeared. My mind was racing thoughts, tumbling over each other so fast I couldn't catch hold of any of them. I wanted to move to take a step forward, but my feet wouldn't budge. What was I afraid of? It wasn't the trail itself. I knew that much. It was something deeper, something I couldn't quite name. Maybe it was the thought of going somewhere I couldn't predict, couldn't control. Or maybe it was the fear of what I might find. The end of what it might say about me. The silence felt louder, now pressing in on me from all sides. My breathing was shallow, quick, like my body was bracing for something I couldn't see. I forced myself to take a step forward, just one step, but it felt like I was moving a mountain. My boots scuffed against the gravel and the sound echoed through the trees, sharp and startling. The second step came a little easier, and then the third. My heart was still pounding. My palms damp with sweat, but I kept moving. Each step felt like an act of defiance, a small victory against the weight in my C*******T. The trail narrowed as I went, the trees closing in around me, their branches twisted overhead, blocking out most of the light. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. My mind started to quiet as I walked the chaos, fading into the rhythm of my steps. The air smelled of earth and pine, rich and grounding, and I let it fill my lungs, steadying me. I didn't know where the trail would lead. I didn't know if it would end in a clearing or circle back to where I started, but for the first time I realized it didn't matter. What mattered was that I was here, moving forward, choosing to take the next step. Even when I didn't know where it would lead, the path curved ahead, disappearing into the trees. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't hesitate. This time I kept walking, the fear still there. But smaller, quieter, and with every step I felt a little lighter, a little stronger. As if the trail wasn't just taking me somewhere, it was bringing me back to my story ends here. If you feel that this story is meaningful and brings useful lessons, please like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thanks.